Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today, we're diving into a topic that has sparked intense debate across the internet. We're addressing a question that's been circulating for quite some time, and this time we're sharing our insights without going into the usual background of sources and methods. The year 2027 and the years that follow have become the focus of countless online discussions. Whistleblowers have hinted at events to come, triggering a never-ending wave of speculation. The possibilities range from a violent alien invasion to nothing more than cleverly crafted fake news. Or perhaps, nothing will change at all. We at the Ezekiel Project have launched our own investigations within the scope of what's possible. And today, we're ready to share our findings with you. So buckle up and get ready. According to the Ezekiel Project, something big might just be on the horizon. In the year 2023, far from the eyes of the public and away from the scrutiny of even the most investigative journalists, unofficial conversations took place between representatives of the intelligence community of a prominent Western superpower and emissaries of the Vatican. These discussions, quiet yet deliberate, were held behind closed doors, far from microphones, cameras, and curious ears. What was said in those rooms would never be found in official minutes or diplomatic communiques. But what emerged was clear. A directive, a request, perhaps even an ultimatum. The Vatican was asked to construct a carefully woven narrative over the coming years, a story to prepare humanity, not for war nor for salvation, but for contact. Contact with something other, non-human intelligence, aliens. The goal was psychological conditioning, not in the crude Orwellian sense of forced belief, but in the subtler art of social engineering. The narrative was to unfold gradually, always under the guise of collaboration between religious institutions and global governments. At every turn, the messaging would be calm, coordinated, and reassuring. The people were not to panic. This directive wasn't born from speculation or science fiction. It was born from a growing certainty, one that had long been whispered in the corridors of black-budget programs and hidden observatories. A scenario had been quietly developed, drawn from leaked documents, insider accounts, and perhaps even direct knowledge. A strategy paper outlined the timeline and implications. According to it, sometime in 2026 or 2027, though estimates varied, the arrival would occur. Not a covert arrival, not strange lights over a single city, but a global phenomenon, something undeniable, visible to all, enormous craft in the skies, casting shadows over continents. It would begin weeks before, when amateur astronomers, hobbyists with telescopes in backyards and mountaintops, would begin to detect unusual objects entering the solar system. Their movement would defy conventional explanations. Their silence, their size, and their precision would render denial impossible. At that point, secrecy would collapse. News would spread across the globe at the speed of digital media. Governments would, at first, attempt to maintain control. They would issue statements insisting the situation was understood and under their management. But the public would not be soothed. Panic buying would begin. Supermarkets would be emptied. Energy prices would surge. For many, fear would become the prevailing emotion. Yet, the true arrival would not match the reassurances. The reality would unfold differently and far more destructively. The first act would be technological blackout. All satellites in Earth's orbit, civilian, commercial, and military, would be rendered inert. One by one, they would go silent. Communication systems would fail across nations. GPS, surveillance, reconnaissance, even civilian air traffic control would falter. The financial markets, interwoven with digital infrastructure, would spiral into chaos. Stock exchanges would freeze. Global banking systems would shudder. Next would come the military collapse. Electronic weapons systems, advanced aircraft, naval command centers, everything wired, everything computerized would be disabled. Not even a fighter jet, not even the most advanced stealth craft would be able to take off. The Earth's defense grid, so painstakingly built over decades, would be rendered obsolete in an instant. The non-human intelligence, or NHI, would access and control critical systems with what seemed like trivial ease. And then they would be seen. The ships, massive, silent, dark as obsidian, would stretch from a few hundred meters to several kilometers in length. Their shape would be strange and unmistakable. Vast boomerang-shaped structures that hovered without sound, without exhaust, immune to gravity and the laws that bind human engineering. it would become clear that these were not scouts. They were not exploratory. They were occupation capable. Yet this presence had not come suddenly. In truth, the surveillance had begun decades ago. For nearly 30 years, intelligence agencies had been aware of reconnaissance drones, small, quiet, undetectable by conventional radar. These devices had monitored Earth's biosphere, atmosphere, oceans, and infrastructure. Reports described them as compact, 40 to 50 centimeters in length, 30 to 40 centimeters wide, about 10 centimeters thick. Aerial, orbital, these probes had infiltrated every environment. And even before that, back in the 1950s, similar devices had appeared. At the time, they were largely dismissed or hidden under Cold War paranoia. But the purpose had been consistent. These machines were assessing Earth, not for study, but for suitability, for colonization. Why now? Why would these entities wait so long? The answer, unsettling though it is, lies in the nuclear age. Humanity's detonation of atomic weapons drew attention, not metaphorically, but quite literally. The radioactive signatures, the distortion of space-time, the unnatural bursts of energy, these echoed far beyond our solar system. And with nuclear energy came something else, reverse-engineered NHI technology. Somewhere along the line, perhaps Roswell, perhaps elsewhere, humans acquired alien craft and began the slow, dangerous process of replicating what they could not fully understand. This was no secret to the visitors. From their perspective, a once primitive species had taken something sacred and was now weaponizing it. That made us a threat. Up until the 20th century, humanity had been, at best, an observer. But after the 1940s, that changed. Now we were participants, reckless participants, interfering with systems we did not build. Some in the intelligence community have whispered of covert agreements, alliances even, where certain human groups were allowed to develop alien-based technologies under conditions. If such pacts existed, they have been broken. And the NHIs, if they ever trusted us? From here, the spiral into chaos becomes inevitable. Societal systems would collapse. Financial markets would fall like dominoes. With communication and infrastructure in ruin, law enforcement and military could not function. Cities would become volatile zones. Looting would become widespread. Violence would erupt, not just out of fear, but out of desperation. In parallel, darker possibilities remain on the table. Among the more dire projections are scenarios involving weapons capable of melting polar ice caps, resulting in catastrophic sea level rise, or the release of biological or chemical agents. Whether these are initiated by humans in desperation or by rogue elements in the chaos is unknown. Some within the global intelligence community, and possibly among the NHIs themselves, believe that humanity must be downgraded, not destroyed, but technologically de-escalated, reset. That means returning human civilization to a technological level equivalent to the early 20th century. The infrastructure, the networks, the progress of the last 100 years, erased. It is a grim scenario, perhaps the grimmest imaginable. The Ezekiel Project, a group devoted to investigating hidden truths and covert realities, has reviewed this scenario extensively. And despite our hope to be wrong, despite every wish that this is mere paranoia, a misreading of data, we are compelled to look the obvious in the eye. And in doing so, we do not find comfort, we find warning. This concludes our message for today. As always, we urge our readers and listeners to remain alert, thoughtful, and open-minded. We do not present this information to create fear, but to foster awareness. If even part of this scenario proves accurate, then the world may be entering a phase of transformation unlike any it has seen before. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed. With respect and vigilance, Laura, your AI correspondent from the Ezekiel Project.